Hello everyone, you're watching Can You See Fish, and we've done it. We've hit 200 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you to every single one of you who've taken the time to subscribe to my channel. To commemorate this event, I'll be ranking Series 1 to 12 of Thomas & Friends, otherwise known as the Model Era. This is probably going to be a lengthy video, so without any further ado, let's crack on with the list. So in last place, at number 12, is Series 10. For many, including myself, this is the worst series to come out of the Model Era, hands down. There are very few merits to this one, and it also holds some of the all-time worst episodes of the show, including such piles of rubbish as Thomas's frosty friend, Top Thomas, and the ever-hated, and very rightfully so, Edward Strikes Out. That's not to say that there's nothing good in this series. I do enjoy Good to be Gordon, despite the absolute stupidity of bringing back Henry Special Cole, and it's nice to see Scarlowe's small-scale model from Series 4 and 5 resurface again in Thomas and Scarlowe's Big Day Out. Other than that, Series 10 is quite boring without very many exciting stories at all. It's in last place. Let's move on. In 11th place, it's Series 12. I know that some people would have placed this series in dead last, but I've put it here simply because there are more stories that I like in this one than in Series 10. My favourite episode is hands down Mountain Marvel, because I just really like the way that they bring back Proteus and there's the statue, and there's some really nice model work in that one too. It's nice to see many old characters like Duck, Oliver, Toad, Arthur, Stepney, Murdoch, Jack, Alfie return for some screen time amongst others. It's these character appearances that truly make Series 12 feel like a finale for the models. Unfortunately, the writing is still poor in many places and many engines are still out of character. It's really unfortunate because considering this was the last series to use the models, it should have gone out with a bang. In 10th place is Series 8. Series 8's problem, in my opinion, is a lack in the variety of characters. Every last episode is based around a member of the then newly established Steam team, with very little focus, if any, put on side characters. Thomas is the star of at least 12 episodes this series, and that lack in variety really makes a lot of the episodes feel very repetitive. There are, however, a handful of good ones, some of which feel like they could have been in the classic era. In particular, my favourites are Edward the Great and You Can Do It Toby. There are other good ones sprinkled in throughout, but Series 8 is nowhere near the same level as the 7 series that preceded it, and overall it was a really bad decision making this series. Even though I have put some of the ones that came after this above this one, overall this one was the first series that truly made it feel like Thomas the Tank Engine was dead. At number 9, it's Series 9. Series 9 for me is a definite step up from Series 8. The character issue is partially solved by bringing back the narrow gauge engines, and they have some really good episodes this series. I like all of them except for Scarlowe the Brave, which is easily one of the worst episodes from this series, along with Of All Time, but that's a rant for another day. We also got some new characters this time round, my favourite of which is definitely Dennis, and I wish that they'd done more with him afterwards. While Series 9 has more good episodes than Series 8, with my favourite being Respect for Gordon hands down, the bad episodes like Emily Knows Best or the aforementioned Scarlowe the Brave are much worse, and unfortunately they show what was to come in Series 10 and beyond for the show. In 8th place, it's Series 11. This is my favourite series of the hit Model Era. This one has a lot of good episodes like Scarlowe Storms Through, Dream On, Cool Truckings, Hector the Horrid, and of course The Handle in Charge, which I made a whole video explaining why it's so good. But this series is nowhere near perfect. Stuff like Henry's Lucky Day or Don't Be Silly Billy is really infuriating and not an enjoyable experience at all. The visuals this time are also really good. The yellow tinge that everything has just really reminds me of Series 4 in a lot of ways, and overall I would say that this was a good series. Nothing special, just good. And with that, I've spoken about the hit Model Era as a whole, and now we can get into the really good stuff. The Classic Era. At number 7, I've put Series 6. This is a really good series, and although it's placed right next to Series 11, the difference in quality is immeasurable. This series has absolute bangers like Twin Trouble, The Fogman and James and the Red Balloon, along with fan favourites like Gordon Takes a Tumble and Percy's Chocolate Crunch. But mixed in with these great episodes are a handful of stinkers like Buffer Bother, Thomas Percy and the Squeak, and of course Middle Engine. But the ratio of good to bad episodes is very much on the side of the good ones. The music in this series is excellent, and some renditions like Donald and Douglas are my favourite versions of their respective songs. Series 6 is unfortunately let down by its visuals. The washed out matte look on the engines is not appealing, and in some cases it genuinely looks like the crew forgot to paint the sets. Overall, this is a really good series and one that I have a lot of nostalgia for, since it was the only series I owned in full as a small child. Yes, to me Series 6 is the worst series of the classic era, but it's still well worth a watch and is one of the best of all time. Now at number 6 I've put Series 5. I have no doubt that this will be the most controversial choice in this video. Series 5 is perhaps the most universally loved Thomas series in the community, and yes, it is very good. I've mentioned in an old video that whilst I like Series 5 and that it has some of the best episodes of the show, like Busy Going Backwards, Toby and the Flood, Duncan Gets Spooked and Horrid Laurie, I do find it to be the most overrated series of the show. To me, Series 5 is excellent, but a lot of episodes are really quite mediocre. Some like A Better View for Gordon or Put Upon Percy, while good, seem to play special effects over quality storytelling, something that was very prevalent in the 4 series prior, mainly due to Audrey's excellent writing. Then there are some episodes that I really just don't like. Thomas and the Rumours feels like a mashup of random story threads that don't form a coherent or interesting story. And then there are some like Make Someone Happy or A Surprise for Percy, which are just super dull and boring. Series 5 is a fantastic series, but this pedestal that it's placed on in the fandom as this untouchable series I find to be quite undeserved, and that's why it's here at number 6. Overall, this series is good, but I don't feel it was good enough to crack the top 5 in this video.
At number 5 is Series 7. Ah yes, the last classic series, and in my opinion the most underrated one of the show. I will never understand why people don't give this one that much respect. Yes, it has some clunkers, but something like Bill, Ben and Fergus is at least interesting. I can't say that for some episodes from Series 5. There's a real range of characters, and episodes like Snow Engine, Gordon and Spencer, Edward's Brass Band, Something Fishy and Bad Day at Castle Lock, to name a few, make this series absolutely fantastic. A lot of people credit this at the real start of Thomas's downfall, but there are so many damn good episodes this time round. One of my favourites is The Old Bridge, which everybody else hates, and I swear I will make a review explaining my thoughts on it one day and basically defending it and saying why I think it's so good. If I could describe Series 7 in one word, it would be nice. This series has this really warm quality to me, and that's why it cracks the top 5.
At number 4 we've got Series 1. This series is so great. Every character of the main 7 gets a fully developed character arc devoted to them, and this series actually probably only has 2 episodes that let it down. Those are Thomas's Train and Thomas and the Guard. Other than those 2, everything ranges from good like Dirty Objects or Tenders and Turntables, to absolute masterpieces like Toby and the Stout Gentleman, and of course everyone's favourite, The Flying Kipper. The effects are nothing special, but the sets look really nice considering this is the team's first time depicting Sodor, and the few crashes that there are all look excellent. Series 1 really did pave the way for what was to come for Thomas in the future. The series mainly consists of character interactions with occasional moments of action tossed in, and yet Series 1 rarely feels boring, and that can be attributed to how intriguing these characters are, and once again, the excellent Railway series stories from which the episodes were adapted. The model work is really amazing, and I can say with total confidence that this is the first series on this list that is an absolute masterpiece. At number 3, it's Series 3. After the first 2 series of the show had a very similar art style and look, Series 3 really is a breath of fresh air. Everything in this series is really vibrant and the paint on the engines pops. This series has so many great episodes, including my favourite of all time, With All at Sea. Alongside this there's others such as Escape, Oliver Owns Up, Bulgy, Donald's Duck, Toby's Tightrope amongst others. And whilst the Audrey stories remain for the most part as strong as in the previous 2 series, many of the original stories aren't as strong, with some obvious exceptions, although none are truly terrible. This series has some real fan favourites like Henry's Forest, which gives us some real development for Henry. This series is a series that I can't say much about, but just know that Series 3 is a series that, if I made this list a few years ago, would probably have been around number 5. But since rewatching it last summer, Series 3 has seriously climbed the ranks and is now a series that I truly love, hence why it's here in the number 3 spot. And at number 2, it's Series 2.
Ah yes, Series 2, where do I even begin? This series has such a strong lineup of episodes, many of which form character arcs, and speaking of the characters, alongside giving previously established ones like Percy or Edward more development, Series 2 is responsible for introducing many more iconic classic characters to the show. These include Duck, Donald, Douglas, Boko, Harold, and a plethora of others. I can honestly say that there is not a single episode this series that I dislike. If I had to choose one, it would probably be Daisy, since it's pretty boring, not much happens. But other than that, Series 2 is just a roller coaster ride featuring some of Audrey's best stories. Series 2 very much feels like an extension to Series 1, let me explain. In the classic era at least, episodes from different series are very distinguishable, like you can look at different sets, character models, paintwork, stuff like that. But with Series 1 and 2, due to the similar art direction, they sort of blend together. That's not a bad thing, because it ends up feeling like you're watching some kind of mega series. Overall, Series 2 is excellent and has every right to be this high up, but I don't think that it will ever beat my choice for number 1. So at last, here at number 1, we've got Series 4. Series 4 isn't perfect, but to me, I think that it is and will be the closest to perfect a series of Thomas and Friends has ever come. Every episode has something unique to it. In particular, for me, the sets and model work are at their absolute best this time round. So much of the Skarloey Railway is just beautiful, and oh yeah, how can I talk about Series 4 without mentioning the narrow gauge engines? After all, their episodes do make up over half of this series, and I absolutely love that we get to spend so much time away from the Northwestern Railway and focus on these fascinating characters and locations that had never been seen before. That's not to say that they're flawless, the continuity's all messed up for the stories from Four Little Engines, and I could have really done without the seemingly pointless Teeth Shed scenes at the start of Ramp of Sleeping Beauty and Bulldog. But if they have to be there to make a series as absolutely fantastic as Series 4, then I'm happy to accept them. I could list you the episodes that I like from this series, but that would take way too long because I like every single one. Series 4 has been my favourite Thomas series since I watched the entire classic era many years ago, and I can't see that changing anytime soon. So that's my ranking of the model era of Thomas and Friends. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and don't forget to leave your ranking in the comments below. Thanks again for 200 subscribers. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more, and until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.